Hey everybody. So I guess the first thing I want to say is a little side note. So when I was a kid, I didn't even know that there was comic book stores or places dedicated basically on selling uh, stuff like that. The way I found comic books when I was a kid is when my mom would go to used bookstores. Sometimes I would get lucky and find some especially cooler ones in places like that, like Alien comics and stuff. Because I mean, I love monster flicks and everything like that. So, um, and another big area I would get them from is the magazine rack at Eckerd's or different types of drugstores that they kind of don't really have nowadays. So, but I would get lucky and I would find some gems. I've always been a pretty big Spider-Man fan. Um, where was I? So I was always a big Spider-Man fan, and I remember one day being at one of the drugstores, and my dad had to pick something up. I don't remember what it was. Um, and I found a Spider-Man comic, but Spider-Man looked completely different on the cover. And it was actually a Scarlet Spider-Man comic. If you're not sure who that is, he was in the second uh, Miles Morales movie, the animated one. But that's a photo of him right there, on the cover of the book. Um, he quickly became like my favorite version of Spider-Man. I ended up acquiring a couple of comics. Like every time I would go there, if I found one of those, I would really put the begging on to my dad to try to get like $3 or $3, whatever it cost at the time, to get that comic. And I remember actually some of them are in this book. Some of them featured Venom, and Venom was always super cool. Also, going back to the whole monster flick thing, because I always considered him more of like a monster. And but I quickly became a fan. I loved the suit. When I was a kid, like I like it more now, but when I was a kid, I didn't like the webbing and the blue alternate colors so much on Spider-Man's costume. I used to literally think like, oh, his costume would be so much cooler if it just had the eyes and the red, you know. And then when I saw Scarlet Spider, and not only did he have that, but he had the cool little wrist gauntlet things, the little ankle pocket patches, and he had like the hoodie with the sleeves cut off, you know. And I thought that was just the coolest thing. I was like, oh, this is the Spider-Man I love. This is like the Rebel Spider-Man. I didn't even really know what I was reading because apparently you end up finding out if you know the whole thing. He's actually a clone of Peter Parker, so and that's why he's basically endowed with Peter's memories. Um, he was created for bad originally, but ended up becoming good. I believe there was another clone too that became Kane and later became a different version of Spider-Man. I think with like a retractable wrist blade. I used to have I used to have a book with him in it, but I don't remember which book that was. I've had a lot of books and lost a lot of books and regained some and new ones. So, but yeah, so basically when I was a kid, Scarlet Spider was just super cool. Uh, but what's funny is like how I mentioned him in the movie part. So in the movie, they make him seem really dramatic, and like he's like, "Oh no, I can't believe this," and he's just he's got a lot of emotion, and I never really noticed that when I was a kid, when I was reading it, and when I was collecting them. But when I got older and I saw that movie, I was like, oh, they're kind of doing my man dirty, you know? Like, I didn't really like that. But then I reread the book because I bought this one, which is volume 27 from 1994, little Marvel Epic Collection. which I'm going to be talking about here in a second. And when I got that and I read it, I was like, oh, so he was a little he was a little bit dramatic. Speaking of which, with the movie too, the first time I heard of Spider-Man 2099, which is the one they refer to now as Miguel O'Hara or something like that, he was pretty badass too. There was like a whole card collection section of 2099s. I think there was like a Captain America, I remember, and also a Hulk, or a version of Hulk, who was like monsterized, and that was pretty cool. If I ever find those cards, which I think I might still have, I'll bring them out and I'll show them. But back to the book. Okay, so here we have The Amazing Spider-Man, The Clone Saga. It's basically all around the Scarlet Spider, even though it's a Spider-Man book and it's not called Scarlet Spider, even though I think he had his own title, and I think I had some issues. But inside of this is Web of Spider-Man 117 through 119, Amazing Spider-Man 394 through 396, Spider-Man 51 through 53, Spectacular Spider-Man 217 through 219, and Spider-Man Unlimited number 7. And there was somewhere that I had read that this story was started in 1985 and gone into like the 94 era, and that's when they started writing more on it. But I'm not positive of the validity of that, and I don't remember where I saw it. But I also wanted to read a quick intro with the book. I wanted to do a little piece on the back, so I'll read that up. And then there's also an introduction that tells you a little bit more about what's within this story. And I'll read a little bit more into that. And there was some characters in here that I had never actually even heard of. Here he is. The Traveler. Like, I never even heard of that guy. And he was in a couple of issues in this. And apparently he's like some badass guy. So, I don't know. But back to the whole thing. So let me read this first. Years ago, the villain known as the Jackal turned Spider-Man's life upside down. Professor Miles Warren, Peter Parker's biochemistry teacher at Empire State University, had secretly fallen in love with another of his students, Peter's girlfriend, Gwen Stacy. We all know who Gwen Stacy is now. When Gwen was killed during a battle between Spider-Man and the Green Goblin, Warren snapped. So I guess that event definitely affected more than just Peter and Captain Stacy. Blaming Spider-Man for Gwen's death, he began experimenting with human cloning in the crazed hope of resurrecting her. Becoming the villainous Jackal, Warren learned of Spider-Man's identity as Peter Parker and plotted an intricate revenge. The Jackal successfully created clones of both Gwen and Peter and reunited Gwen with the original Peter to confuse and destabilize him. The Jackal then kidnapped Peter's friend, Ned Leeds, and forced Spider-Man to battle his own clone, who had been conditioned to believe that he was Spider-Man as well. The two Spider-Men fought as a ticking time bomb threatened Ned's life, but in the timer's final seconds, the Jackal's sanity returned and he freed Ned. Good for him. The bomb exploded, apparently killing both the Jackal and Spider-Man clone. Gwen Stacy's clone departed to make a new life for herself, and Spider-Man dumped his clone's corpse down a smokestack of an incinerator plant, hoping to destroy it. That's pretty cold. Several years later, after Peter had married Mary Jane Watson, he discovered evidence that the Jackal had not created true clones. Let me move that a little bit. True clones, but instead used a genetic virus to transform two people named Joyce Delaney and Anthony Serba into pseudo-clones of Gwen and Peter. Gwen's clone briefly returned and was given Delaney's memories during a confrontation with the High Evolutionary. But Spider-Man remained uncertain about the full truth of these revelations. Recently, Spider-Man has been pushed to the brink of a nervous breakdown. Harry Osborn, the second Green Goblin, conspired with the Chameleon to create cyborg replicas of Peter's dead parents, Richard and Mary. Peter was overjoyed when his parents returned, and deeply shaken when they were revealed to be fakes. Peter retreated from the pain in his personal life and by hiding behind the mask of the Spider. It was like what he started calling himself, the real Spider-Man, during that time. And he was a lot more aggressive, like way more. Like basically Tom Holland at the end of the third Spider-Man if he didn't get calmed down by the other two Peters. Fighting crime nonstop and treating Peter Parker as almost a separate person, he threw himself into battle against foes like Shriek and the Scorpion with an angry resolve and accidentally used his full strength against a normal human, Philip Cussler, racking the Spider with even more angst. The betrayal of Peter's parents and his emotional retreat hurt his family as well. Feeling abandoned and embittered, exchanged harsh words with Aunt May, but May also deeply stressed about the false Parkers. Had one secret source of solace, sporadic phone calls from a stranger who had befriended her. Followed the stranger's journey back to New York in these excerpts from the Web of Spider-Man, and it says like all the numbers of the issues that I already said. The writers for this are Terry Cavanaugh, J.M. DeMatis. If I say any of this wrong, I apologize. Howard Mackey, Tom DeFalco, Mike Lackey, and Todd DeZago. It was a really good book. I gotta say that. I felt some of the parts were a little harder to get through, but not like the main book or Scarlet Spider having all the emotions. It was more hard to get through maybe some of the sections with Mary Jane where she was just basically like thinking to herself for a couple of pages. like like bring us some action. And don't get me wrong, Mary's awesome. One of my favorite actual Spider-Man books was a very short couple of issues, and it was this one where he was married, he had a kid, and I believe his kid ended up developing powers too, but I can't remember. But I think it was during like the Second Secret Wars or something like that. And basically, he was more of a family-oriented guy. And maybe that's a biased opinion though, because I'm a dad, so I kind of like that stuff. It puts a little bit more reality into it. And I don't know, because sometimes they'll have characters and they never change, like ever. And that just, I feel like things are supposed to grow with you. As like if you're a fan of something and you keep liking it, if you hold on to it, it's because it grew with you and it didn't just plateau. It basically the same thing. And where some people will be like, it's more selling out, or it's more this, or it's not enough action. But no, it's a big deal. Like in DC Comics, I see all the time that people hate Damian. He's a little kid. Oh well, he acts. Maybe your opinion on hating some kid that's trying to do right by his dad, maybe that says more about you than it says about the character, But back to the points. Spidey thought his clone was long dead, but where has the man now called Ben Reilly been for the last 5 years? Why has he returned? And is he Peter Parker's dark side? Or his better half? As the mysterious Judas Traveler and his companions study the two spiders, Ben enjoys a new Ben enjoys a new lease on life, suiting up as the Scarlet Spider and swinging into action against Venom. But an unstoppable Peter is pushed to the brink in a confrontation with the Puma. Can Daredevil help bring him back from the edge? No other Spider storyline was as innovative or infamous as the 1990s Clone Saga, and this is where it all begins. If I didn't already say, this is a Marvel Epic Collections, Volume 27, 1994. But I think I did say that. Let's look through a little bit. In most of the book, Aunt May is in the hospital. And even though Scarlet Spider was like, he's basically endowed with the memories of Peter, so he has this like unrelenting care for Aunt May and always checking up on her. And he's always going to visit her or something. But if the real Peter pops up, he's got to dashes out real quick. Let's check out some of this. That's that classic Spider-Man art. Here's some of the issues when he was inside Ravencroft, going up against the Traveler, I think his name was. Who seemed kind of like a big baddie, and I was kind of surprised that I hadn't heard of him before. Let's see if I can pull up all the people he came in with. Oh yeah, Carnage is in here too, but not a lot. Kind of small. If you see right there, that's the Traveler basically pulling Cassidy out of the Carnage symbiote. So, the guy's, he's got some juice. Yeah, here's some more. Because, Ravencroft, that's where they keep a lot of the Spider-Man villains. Especially the more dangerous ones. Here's the Traveler's little gang right there. I don't really remember all their names, but that's them. I believe that was the lady that was in charge of Ravencroft, and they kind of take it over from her. Let's see. Yeah. Oh, Craven, also in this. I just read something else that he was in the end of. Actually, he made an appearance, he made a more cliffhanger appearance on the very last page. And when he did, it literally made me just want to get the next book and read that. So, let's see here. I gotta say, great art for 1994. I believe I said it earlier after I read the back. Yeah, so Daredevil was in this. Puma. Also what was her name again? I forget now. That's this one. That's the lady I was talking about. And she ends up getting kind of hurt, and that sends Puma a little crazy. But I think he also tried to hurt her because he went a little feral. There's a good photo of Puma. Basically like a werewolf, which is like my favorite classic monster. And it says Daredevil. And that's the Daredevil after Matt Murdock was already supposed to be dead, who was the original Daredevil. And little known fact, I don't know if you know this, but Ninja Turtles, when it started out, it was supposed to be like a satire or something of Daredevil. Like it was like a spin-off of it. But I'm sure we'll talk about that at a different time. because I eventually want to talk about some of my old Turtle comics and books. And some of the new ones, too. There's this guy, the Owl, who just seems like a more eccentric version of the Vulture. And he is friends with the Vulture. In the book, he kind of battles, like, if he feels like he's actually good or evil. And some back and forth with that. Let's look through a little bit more. Yeah, Vulture, Owl. You know what? I'll show you some of this back covers too. Got Spoiler in there. Or is it Spoiler or Prowler? Let me look that up real quick. Spider-Man bad guys. Prowler, not Spoiler. Spoiler is a character from Batman comics. I don't know why, even though those names seem so different. For some reason, they were ringing in my head like they were similar. I guess these were some of the thoughts of what Scarlet Spider would look like before they actually picked his look. Which I'm really glad they went with the look they did, because I really don't like the other ones. Although that one with the jacket, that one's kind of cool. That guy right there. And you know what? There was a Spider-Man that had that suit. Around the same time. Like I used to see that. I think I had one or two of the issues. The suit was like a darker blue, and I believe more blue, less red. And the spider covered pretty much the whole chest and back area. And I believe it was like a blue spider and it went into the color or something like that. But and then they ended up settling on the final version, which was that. I guess that one's pretty cool too, actually. If you guys ever saw that movie, Madam Web, that's actually supposed to be Madam Web right there. You get, if you watch the 90s animated Spider-Man, Madam Web made some appearances in that too. Actually, that show was pretty good, and it covered a lot of the big story arcs that went through Spider-Man, including like the Venom and Maximum Carnage and stuff like that. For grabs, and they got some more info in the back, just basically telling you more about the stories and their comics of the Scarlet Spider coming. Some covers and such like that. Swinging the reins. And little written stuff by the writers and artists. And some of the characters they created in the story. Oh, there's a cool one with Cassidy and Carnage. But yeah, that's pretty much the whole Clone Saga book that I went through real quick. I didn't really want to go into too many details, but like I said, I think in the other video, if I get enough likes on a single one and you guys want me to actually read through the issues or read some of it, I'm definitely down for that. Just let me know, that you'd like that. Because I don't want to just make videos that people actually don't want to see more of the story. So I guess we're going from oldest to newest. And the next book that we would be talking about, let me grab my little notes. The next one is volume 1 of The Superior Spider-Man. Very good book. I heard about this back when I first started collecting comics again. Hey. Okay. Uh, I originally only really, when I came back to collect, it was really only going to be like Predator comics and Ninja Turtles, but I ended up getting turned on to Batman comics, and still a very big fan. But while I was doing that, I remember telling the guy, like, oh yeah, I'm a pretty big Spider-Man fan too, but I haven't collected any in a long time, and I wanted to get back into that. He recommended to me this book. It was a little newer then, but The Superior Spider-Man. This is basically a book from when he was taken over by Doc Ock. Like, literally, Peter Parker is not in control of this body, and Doc Ock is, but Doc Ock's like soul is inside of Spider-Man, like in Peter Parker's body. So he's essentially living Peter Parker's life, which you end up finding out that Peter Parker's soul's still in there too, and he basically has to watch Doc Ock either mess up certain things in his life or somehow show improvements in ways in his life and accept that, which I think was a little harder than the mistakes that Ock was making. So it's called My Own Worst Enemy. It's volume 1. It's issues 1 through 5, I believe it was. It's from between November 12th, 2014 and December 15th, 2014. Writer is Dan Slott, illustrated by Ryan Stegman, and hopefully I say this right, Giuseppe Camuncoli? Camuncoli? Giuseppe Camuncoli? I probably said that wrong. I'm sorry if I did. I didn't mean to. So this book was really cool, and I feel like it kind of taught some lessons, like that, with the way I was saying, like Peter kind of has to watch over and seeing someone in his body living his life and doing certain things better. Like there's certain things Peter's tried to do for years that he couldn't get done, that he just couldn't bring himself to, and Doc Ock comes in and just does it because he has less, I guess, emotional attachment and remorse to do so. But some of these things that he did, they just really improved his life. And I gotta say, he really is a super efficient Spider-Man. And I've only read volume 1, but I'm definitely gonna look for volume 2 and see where I can pick that up from, because I want to get into that. Oh, and some of the books, like this one, library. Library stepping up the game, guys. I don't know if you have a local library, but you should really check it out. They usually have pretty cool music collection, movie collection, and books. I like to check out these kind of books, and also like the supernatural sections, other sections too, but that's kind of like stuff I'm more into, I guess, that I find more enjoyment and passion towards. But yeah, so the biggest status quo change of Marvel now, written by comicbook.com. A new era of web-slinging excitement starts now. Okay. Peter Parker spent a lifetime fighting to improve the world, but his story ended dramatically with a final fatal sacrifice. Now Peter's archenemy, Dr. Octopus, is taking control of his body and his life. Otto Octavius is Spider-Man, and he's determined to prove himself superior to his former foe in every way. So, essentially, Ock is doing the right thing, but for the wrong reasons. But his baptism of fire will come when he faces down the new Sinister Six, which he started taking them out pretty quickly and efficiently and easily, and then they were like, "What? Is this the new Spider-Man? Is this new Spider-Man in cahoots with Jameson?" That was another thing that Peter couldn't believe. He was like, "How is Jonah like backing him? He hates me. Like, how did this happen in such a short time?" And has Carly Cooper figured out his secret identity? That's someone who in this I didn't get to read that story, so I don't know certain details. But from what they say in this, a friend of Peter's that knew him, or either way, she was a cop, and she ends up coming across Octavius, and he tells her something along the lines of, "No, you don't understand. Uh, I'm Peter. I'm in Doc Ock's body." And Doc Ock dies, so I don't know if after that happened, like the soul went into Superior Spider-Man or how that went down, but uh, he told her this before he, I guess, didn't have a body anymore from Dr. Octavius. And now she keeps catching little things, and she'll say things to him too, like, "Oh, you're not acting yourself, Peter. Or, this is so unlike you," because it is. It's somebody else completely. Plus, Spider-Man and Mary Jane reunited. That was another thing that he was doing in Peter's life, and Peter's like, "What the? What are you doing?" The return of the Vulture, and how many people must die before the Superior Spider-Man will kill a supervillain. Find out as Otto battles Massacre with hundreds of lives in the balance. That was another character I never really heard of, Massacre. He's in this. He's apparently like some. They call him a psychotic, but really, he just seems to have no emotions, but he seems still driven. So maybe that's psychotic is actually perfect for him. Either that or like completely delusional and narcissistic or something. Sorry, I don't know if you guys can hear any of that, but my son is, he gets super excited and he just kind of sings along and talks along with his videos, but he has autism, so uh, he's not generally thinking about the noise that he's making, just about the joy that he's basically having. Um, yeah. Okay, so let's put that book down. So now to the next version, which is these two books. One I own, one I was about to buy, but I happened to see it at the library, so I just picked it up. First one, Ultimate Spider-Man, which isn't a main continuity book. It's kind of like its own thing. When this book starts, there is no Spider-Man. It's basically like a reboot of the Spider-Man story, and I like it. It's pretty good. It starts out a little slow, um, and Peter has never been Spider-Man. He's already with Mary Jane. They already have kids, but then he gets bestowed with this suit, and I don't remember exactly how they said it, but I believe it was a recording or a message that said, "People don't remember, but you're supposed to be like superheroes, and you were one of the ones on the top of this list, like one of the best heroes that there was, and one of the ones to look out for the most." So, which is kind of cool. It's almost like that DC thing when Doomsday Clock or whatever, and like the blue guy had more to do with the DC universe than you really originally realized. But and then there was also Volume 2 that I picked up at the library. This Black Cat on the cover, even though she's literally only in this book for like a cameo second or something. Like I think maybe her image is on one page, if not on a cover. Um, by the way, I wanted to say great art and good writing too. Uh, It reminds me of some of my more favorite writers in the Batman world. But yeah, like I said, I like when the books they have families and everything, and the first person to find out who Spider-Man is was his daughter. And they like kind of keep the secret for a while, and I thought that was super cute. Really, really family like. So, and there's also Ultimate for like other stuff. There's like Ultimate X-Men and Ultimate Black Panther, and basically they're stories that aren't the original continuity story. So this story doesn't really go in with like the Scarlet Spider stories, which were part of the main continuity, and so is Superior Spider-Man. So volume one is called Married with Children. The names on the cover for the writers and the artists: Hickman, Chiquito, Messina, and Wilson. I believe it was the same ones on the next book too. But a really, really good art. Here, let me pull some out. Okay, here we go. Laid back, casual style, but real good. There's the newer Green Goblin. Yeah, that's another thing. Like, he didn't even know Harry, but they do become friends in this, which is pretty cool. And they both end up having a suit. And by in the second volume, they start figuring out more about the suits and what the suits not only can do, but where they came from and why they came from there. Um, Really great story. Really great cliffhanger at the end of this. This is actually the one I was talking about that had Craven. I'll kind of should I show it? I shouldn't show it probably. But that's Craven. I really like the new look. I almost felt like it was taken more from the movies because it kind of looks like what's that guy's name? Aaron Johnson's Craven or whatever that guy's name is. I forget. But he was in Kick-Ass. Great actor, good actor, in a lot of good stuff. He was in Savages, Kick-Ass. What else was he in? I think he's in that new 28 Years Later or whatever that is. That's like the I think the third installment of 28 Days Later. Really, really good. Let me see if I put anything special in my notes. Married with Children, Volume 1. 6 issues per comic. So Volume 1 through 6. This is originally from 2024. But, I should check that, make sure. It is still an ongoing book, by the way. 2024. So, yeah. Manufactured between 6/28/2024 and 7/30/2024. I believe that's referring to the issues and not the graphic novel, because if I don't know if you are familiar with comics, because I kind of make these videos for people that aren't too, because so they can see what this is about, and usually how it works is single issues come out. Like the 6 issues in here came out weekly, monthly, whenever they came out. And then after they finish the first 5 for 6, they take that and they end up making a collected version, which we call trades or graphic novels, and basically put that out. And then, which I prefer. I like singles. I think they're really cool to collect, and I have a whole bunch. But I do love binging when I do read comics. So I like to read through more than just a single issue. I like to really kind of go into it. So by the time I finished the first one, I was like, I'll check out the second one. But I wasn't real big on it. But when I saw it at the library, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll pick it up. I picked it up. That book picked up faster, way faster. The main protagonist being, I believe, the Sinister Six and Kingpin. So that was pretty cool. I liked it, how that all played out. And I kind of want to see more about the whole erasing or of memories or whatever that was, or changing of a timeline and how it got there. Uh, they definitely have more than the volume 2 that's out now. I just haven't read them yet, so I don't know. You might be watching this and you already know what happens. Yes, Mickey? Okay. That's my youngest. He also has autism. He just coming out and seeing what I was doing. What was volume 2 called? Volume 1 is Married with Children. Volume 2 is called The Paper. Oh, that was another cool thing in this. So in this, Aunt May is not alive. I believe that's what it was. Yeah. Aunt May is not alive. Ben, Uncle Ben, he's alive. And him and Jonah Jameson, they start a paper together, and they're basically investigative journalists, and they start figuring out certain things, like here's a bit of a spoiler because you already know it's gonna happen, but Ben figures out Peter is actually Spider-Man, and Peter didn't tell him; he just figured it out. But he also he figured out that Peter's friend Harry was Goblin first. So, but yeah, it's really good, and honestly, I cannot wait for Volume 3. I'm pretty excited about that. But I kind of wanted to make this and not just necessarily be like a regular review or anything like that, but just to show that there are different Spider-Mans out there, and there's plenty of different versions of the story, and plenty of and if you like the movies, you should definitely read the books, because that's where they get their source material from. Like, the books are the gospel, you know. That's the originals. That's the ancient texts, you know. That's what they drew their inspiration and mostly their stories from, you know. Like Batman Superman movie. So, in opinions of that movie, good movie. Really cool. I was so happy that I got to see Batman do some stuff I wanted to see in movies that I've never gotten to see, because they never really did that. But also, parts of the movie, I wouldn't say irritate me, but it's just kind of like, you know, because they take certain things from the source material, but they kind of twist it, you know. Like the whole thing with and I like Zack Snyder, and I liked his better cut version of the Justice League, but like, Batman would not create a spear to destroy Superman with, even if he hated him. Like, that's not Bats. It's just not. That's not how he operates. That's not how it works. If you ask me personally, I always thought Zack Snyder kind of didn't like Batman, and that's why not only did Batman never get his own, he was the only character that didn't get a standalone movie. You know, he didn't get a Batman movie. He got Batman versus Superman, and it basically was like, oh, you know, his mother's Martha. Not even that whole weirdness, but hold on. But yeah, so he didn't get a standalone movie, and everybody else did. And I don't know, you know, a lot of people have a lot of opinions about that. I thought Affleck played a pretty damn good Batman. One scene I really didn't like was, and I know they were just trying to make him seem dark and mysterious and whatever, but that whole part where the cop ends up seeing him and he crawls along the wall with the cape flowing kind of behind him, which doesn't really even make sense because the cape would have drooped down, you know. But also, Batman would have crawled away. He probably just would have thrown a batarang and knocked the gun out of the cop's hand, you know. One second. Excuse me. But there's certain other things in the movies that I completely loved. Like when you get to see I remember towards the end when he was like running from Doomsday, like he ends up like kind of backing up against this edge of this wall on the outside of a building, and then firing his grapple gun and zipping off, and that awesome, so awesome. When he got into that fight, which is like the best scene in the movie, and towards the end in that warehouse, and he ends up taking out like I don't know 15 guys or something like that. That was probably the closest I've seen it look like when Batman lays waste to a gang in one of the books. You know, like he's not heartless, but he is definitely unmerciful to those that would hurt others, for sure. But in a righteous way, not in like a nasty way at all. That's but and one of the things besides that whole spear thing, because that was oh, Jesus Christ, that was really really ridiculous. But so besides that whole section, the fact that Batman was basically killing people in that movie, like when he was in that car chase, dropped like a huge container on one of the cars or something. You know those people died. He was using what looked like to me to be live rounds and just blasting cars. Or some of the bad guys. And even if, because if they had guns, okay, but still, you know, that's literally his one rule. He doesn't kill. And yeah, you can go and see that there was like a couple of things like back in like the what was it, 50s or something. He did this thing where he like flew off in the Batwing, and it had a guy hanging by a noose or something, and like the guy dies, and it was like this thing. But that's not bad. But that was back in like Brave and the Bold and all those days. Uh, so yeah, I had certain issues, but the movies themselves, and they tried to cram Superman's death, which is like an event all in itself, into Batman's movie. You know, they might as well have made that the beginning of the Justice League movie. You know, before Justice League came out, and like that and made the movie just even longer, because that's basically what that was. It was not a Batman movie in any sense. Oh, that's kind of cool. Look, check it out. And the fact that we got to see Frank Miller's suit, because in the old comics it was the Dark Knight Returns comic, which was by Frank Miller, and he got to have that armored suit, and him and Soups fought, and that was a badass fight. But he didn't win it with a freaking spear, you know, ridiculous. I can see that spear being made to get Doomsday, but I it's hard for me to wrap my head around that in the books he would not have done that either. Like he would literally have figured out a better way to get Doomsday. He just would have. That's how Bats works. That's his life. That's what he does. He fights a war. He knows he can't win. He knows he doesn't do that much good compared to what he wants to do. But he keeps doing it. And I think that's where my love for him comes in, because you know he's fighting the war that can't be won, but he's doing it on a selfless way. Well, not completely selfless. He loves it. He really does. Addicted to it would be, I'd say, downplaying on how he actually feels about it. But like my personal bats, that's Capullo and Snyder. Like from beginning to end of that whole series, that's my bat. You know, that's so good. Um, I was getting to a point though. Okay, so but when they take from the source material, they can't. You gotta keep up with it in ways. Um, like you don't do that. Like why was that made even like that? And somehow Superman was a victim? No, like And Soups isn't really like that either. You know, Soups is softer. Soups is more respectful, I feel. And I'm not, that's not a dig on the actor or anything, because I thought Henry Cavill played an amazing Superman. And I actually liked the Superman movie. His movie, I probably liked that first one. What was it called? Like Man of Steel or something. Besides the new Superman movie I just watched last night, which was amazing, by the way. That felt a lot more like the comics. Um, but the Henry Cavill, that was my favorite Superman. You know, he was. He was really good as Superman. I really liked that. So I guess basically what I'm saying is, sometimes they have certain opinions about certain characters, or want to promote a different character more, so they do so. You know, but they're changing some of the source material and how the things came out. And when you do that, you can kind of take away from the authenticity. I'm not saying that you can't have Elseworlds kind of movies, or like What If, but I think sometimes that they're like, oh, you know, this story's already been told, so instead of putting this to a live action movie, I'm gonna change it all up, make it a whole new story, which can work, but sometimes I feel like it really does take away from the original shine, like the Hush book. Not the best book in the world, but a very, very important book. A lot of things in that happened. It was at the beginning of a new villain. Um, you got to see a scarier side to certain characters, uh, as well as maybe into the psychology of Bat. When I say Bat, I just mean Batman. I just abbreviate. Um, Also, that was the coming back of Jason Todd, who I talked about in the last video from the Three Jokers. Um, that was basically his first appearance back. And then you end up finding out that's like, oh, it wasn't really him, it was Clayface, but part of it was him. And then they switched, and Clayface ended up kind of doing the thing, and it confused him, and he was thrown off. But if you ever want to read more detail into that, you can always just get the Red Hood book. And Red Hood, the Lost Days or the Lost Years book. I don't remember the word, if it was years or days. But that's pretty good too. I think it was by Judd Winnick, I think. But amazing. Uh, I remember that before the Batman that came out recently with Robert Pattinson, which I didn't think was horrible or anything, which I just, I feel like it's good, but they really should have stuck with Ben Affleck as Batman, because they had so much more to explore that. I mean, you had so many little Easter eggs in that little bit. Uh, these, you know, I really didn't like Jared Leto at first as Joker, but came to be like, this is a cool version. This is and the best performance is when he did that nightmare after credit scene or whatever that was, where it's basically nightmare Batman, which just means he's wearing the trench coat and the goggles. Which the trench coat's supposed to be Barbara Gordon's dad, Commissioner Gordon's trench coat, and Deathstroke, Cyborg. What was Aquaman's woman? Mira, I think her name is, and also Joker, and maybe someone else. I don't know, but Ben Affleck and Jared Leto had a bit. Hold on one second. Jared Leto and Ben Affleck had a bit of a back and forth monologue in that part, and that was good. And they talk about Harley's death and stuff like that. And I don't know, there was a lot more feeling into that. And they also showed Robin's suit, so you know he was killed. That was that whole thing, and I guarantee that was supposed to be Todd's suit, unless they were changing that part of the story too, and it was going to be Grayson or Damien somehow. But I can't remember if in the suitcase, I thought I remember seeing a bow staff, and if there was a bow staff, that would be Tim Drake's Robin. But since the writing was all over, like, haha, joke's on you or whatever, makes me assume Jason Todd. But I feel like I'm droning on, and this video is literally almost 55 minutes long. Throw me a comment if you want me to cover something certain, or if you just want to talk crap about comics, because I'm always down for that. Do a video or do a live and just sit there and give our opinions on this stuff, because when it comes down to it, it's fun. It's half of it, us giving our opinions and kind of building up what we love. So I guess thanks for joining me again. The books that we did was Ultimate Spider-Man Volume 2 and Volume 1. Superior Spider-Man, bum bum. And The Amazing Spider-Man, which featured pretty much mostly the Scarlet Spider. I don't know, those are like those little ankle pockets I was talking about. I thought those things were so cool. They were like little tactical things. And he had a belt. I always loved belts when I was a kid. I would literally wear like these shirts way too big for me, wear a belt over it, and almost kind of do this Peter Pan look to it. And I thought it was so cool, I wear my little cowboy boots and stuff. But that's a cool picture. Maybe we can end with that. But soon I'll come up with some more books, some more stories, some more things to talk about, and maybe we can do some more stuff talking about the movies and stuff too, because that seems to be a really thing amongst comic book people. Oh, I don't think I finished that point. So I think a lot of times the writers are like, oh, the story's been done. The people that already read it, they won't appreciate it as much, so let's change it. But really shouldn't always try to do that. And the point I was making on the whole Hush thing was they made an animated version of the movie too. And I don't think a lot of people realize this about the animated version was originally they wanted to do what they did with it was a completely different villain. And they played off certain things of the story that were actually really important and didn't put it in. Originally, I believe that was their whole point. I don't want to say too much because I don't want to give spoilers between who the villain was in the book and who the villain was in the actual animated movie. But I'm pretty sure in the animated movie, the villain that was in that originally was going to be the villain in the book Hush. But they ended up changing it and making it someone else instead. But yeah, maybe I should cover Hush in the animated movie Hush too. I don't have a copy of that, but I do own it digitally. Yeah. I think I finished making the points that I trailed off on. And I'll do that. I'll trail off on a point and forget I'm making it. And then 5 minutes later, be like, oh yeah, no, that was the point I was getting at. So, but it just happens like that sometimes. But I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope it made you or inspired you to want to check out some Spider-Man. Or just maybe read your own Spider-Man books. And I hope you guys have a good rest of your weekend. Have a great one. Bye.